What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? After more than 150 conversations with executives from companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I've learned that sports is a common denominator. Some of our guests' athletic experiences earned them a place in their sports hall of fame, like Chick-fil-A chairman Dan Cathy. Some hung up their cleats after high school, like Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, while others, like Condoleezza Rice, claim they weren't that great in their sport. But no matter their skill level, they have all told me that being a part of a team taught them leadership lessons that they still use today. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, I'm your host, Don Yeager, here to give you an all-access pass to genuine, authentic, fireside chat-like conversations with today's business icons so that you can create powerful change in your organization. This is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is the president of Aflac U.S., Virgil Miller. A U.S. Marine and veteran of Operation Desert Storm, Virgil joined Aflac in 2004. His innate ability to inspire teams, to drive results, catapulted him through various leadership roles, showcasing his impact across the company over nearly 2 decades. His 30-plus promotions at Aflac, 30-plus promotions, I couldn't believe that number when I read it. It's testament to his determination to equip those around him with team-first goals. Today, we're going to dive into how playing baseball, football, and even fencing in college shaped him. Be sure to visit corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/notes to access our downloadable PDF. This resource now includes my favorite quotes from today's episode, along with a practical leadership exercise designed to help you implement today's key lessons in 5 minutes or less.
Become a customer of your own process. How do you know if it works if you haven't done it yourself? Have you filed a claim yourself? Have you called the call center yourself? Call it. Did you have to wait long? Did it answer your question? Why don't you go through the process yourself? So if you own that process, then you need to test it. Fundamentals, make sure it works. Well, how do you make sure it works? You practice it, you try it, and then you do it. Take customer feedback, absolutely, where you listen to customer feedback, but you need to do it yourself. Walk your own process.
Virgil, thanks for joining us.
It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. And Don, thanks for having me.
Well, Aflac's name has come up already in at least one of our previous conversations. So I love that we get a chance to speak to you today. I know you grew up in a really small town in Georgia. I love as a role model, you saw your uncle went to work every day with a briefcase. You loved watching that, and it actually inspired you to do the same. How did that childhood experience shape the leader you would one day become?
Don, the term I used growing up was a businessman. Gray slacks, white shirt, blue jacket, briefcase, casual or more loafer type shoes. I never saw him wearing tennis shoes growing up. He told me, he said, Virgil, you have the acumen at an early age. You're going to be a businessman like me. He said, so I want you to dress the part, and I want you to start learning certain things that's going to make you better in life. A businessman first needs to understand their numbers. If you understand the numbers, count your own money, understand how you bring in revenue and revenue goes out, that is the core foundation of what you're going to need. I didn't even know what he did. I never knew.
I was going to ask, because in all of it I read, I never heard what his actual job was, but the way he presented himself is what stood out to you.
Yeah, I joined the Marines when I was in high school, actually at 16. I left when I was 17. And when I was 18, he had passed away. I came back. I learned at his funeral he was an IRS agent. Go figure. That's what he did. It was all about the persona that he had created, and I kind of patterned my life after that.
You know, several weeks ago, we actually had Deion Sanders on as a guest of this podcast. Coach Prime and I wrote a book together. I know he's a big part of Aflac's branding. One of the chapters in that book to the point you're making right now is your uniform matters. How you present yourself to the world.
Yes.
He's trying to represent the idea that people see you through your uniform sometimes, and how you carry yourself, the way your uniform sits on you
Yes.
will reflect in the way other people will react to you.
Let me say, we love Coach Prime. He's been a great brand ambassador, an actual champion of care for Aflac. He helps us get the word out to audiences we normally can't reach, closing the gap initiative. So we love him. And it's what you said also, Don. When Coach Prime enters a room, the standard rises. He sets the
He
tone.
changes the temperature, baby.
Yes. Hey, I told him, I said, whenever he comes in, my energy level comes up. And that's what you do. He sets the tone, just how he walks into the room, how he enters. His whole persona can uplift you. We love working with him.
I'm absolutely better for it. Talking to your team and prepping for today, I've interviewed a few executives over the years, but stood out to me. You have actually made your way through 30 plus promotions in your career. I mean, 30, you're way too young to have been promoted 30 times. You must have gotten several at one time or something. But you have a phrase that you talk about the importance of climbing the corporate ladder, looking up, looking down, and looking around.
Yes. I was trying to put together a formula.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of a formula is doing things that are repeatable. When you find something that works and you're able to get success from it, the best thing you can do is package it so it can be repeated. When I enter any type of role or a new position, the first thing I do is meet with my next level. Who am I under? I meet with that next level. And what we talk about is, what are my expectations?
Mm-hmm.
If you can align your expectations with their expectations, make the boss look good, then you're going to be better off. And here's the point too, is don't leave it up to any ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have set those expectations and we narrow the focus, then I create a scorecard for that. Everything must be driven to tangible, quantitative results. Translate that. So if you said to me, Don, Virgil, I want to make sure that you increase profitability. Okay.
That's ambiguous.
Exactly.
Right.
Now let's take that, let's put it into quantitative measures. Is that a 2% increase? So if I get a 2% increase, that's what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
I create that scorecard and I begin to actually report that to you on a regular basis, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. Some results don't need to be reported as often, but I will say to you in that own way, I'm actually writing my own performance appraisal. We've agreed on what's expected. We talked about how you measure it.
And you're constantly evaluating it.
Right. You don't leave it up for chance.
I love that, man. I don't know that we've had anybody put it quite that perfectly. Thank you.
It's not complicated. However, it is, can you execute it though, to perfection? I got a chance to see that play Hamilton.
Oh, love it, man.
That's a great one. Well, there's a song in there and it talks about in the room where it happens. And guess what though? When your compensation is being discussed, your next promotional opportunity has been discussed, your next assignment, guess who's not in the room? You aren't.
Right.
You better make sure how you're represented in that room. Now, the best way to be represented in a room is through performance outcomes. Make it tangible. The other best way, though, is know what someone is going to say about you. So I'm constantly talking to my leader about what's the feedback you're going to give me? How am I being perceived? What will you say? Because I want to know how I'm represented in a room where it happens.
Wow. So that's look up.
That's look up. When it talks about looking down, I've always been in leadership roles, even coming out of the Marines at a young age. So I've always looked at it through the lens of a leader. And I take this from Aubrey Daniels. He was a behavioral scientist who wrote Bringing Out the Best in People. I've always studied behavioral sciences. And the first thing that we say is the measure of any leader is based on the performance of his or her people. So if my team fails, it's because of me. I accept full accountability. I fail. I am only measured as a leader based upon the success of my people. Once I know what I'm going to be accountable for and what my objective goals are, I translate those down. I'm going to tie your goals to my goals. There can only be one set of goals. There's only one set of strategies because we're all going to be pulling on the same side of the rope. But I make sure you understand what those are. I make sure that your behavioral attributes of how you perform every day tie back to exactly what we're expecting to yield the expected outcome. Everything ties. There's always a leadership part of it is what I call lift as you climb. So I'm going to also make sure that I grow you, help you achieve your career objectives, because if I can pull you up, it only elevates me.
Mm. The common thread between those two, looking up and looking down, is intentional communication.
Yes.
You're not leaving anything to chance. There's no synonyms here. We're not guessing what it is that you are trying to say.
No, you're not guessing, and then everything must tie.
Mhm.
Everything must tie. Here's what the highest level leadership is looking for. Here are my objectives tied, and then here are my reports and how they're tied.
Mm.
And then everybody knows what those expectations are.
Wow.
I'm also going to invest in that individual as a person.
Mm.
When you invest in me as a person, then I'm going to generally have a tendency to get on board with it. So you bring the team together. I'm going to invest in you as a person. I'm going to tell you how I can help you be successful. Because if you're successful, then I'm successful. And it goes all the way up.
Hello.
Which then gets to the look around.
Mm-hmm.
It is all about teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
If one succeeds and the rest don't, we fail. That's the teamwork aspect. I've seen a lot of talented people. I've seen a lot of great individual contributors, but they fail if they can't work with others. Mm. You have to have the ability to work as a team. It's a team first mentality. You have to have the ability to collaborate, and you have to have the ability to be able to share and lift others up with you. So put the formula together. Looking up, you look down, and then everyone pulls together and works together as a team. That's that working around.
The magical formula right there. I love it. You made a couple of references already to your time in the Marines. You were there, Desert Storm. You mentioned that there was an experience there that taught you to never be presumptuous about people.
Thank you, Don, for the opportunity to share. Think about a young man leaving Georgia for the first time, now on boot camp experience on Parris Island. Shout out to all the Marines, one of the toughest training regiments of any of the military forces across the world. On Parris Island in the 1980s, where things are tough, and I'm sure they still are, to all my fellow Marines out there, but things were tough then, and it was not unusual for someone either to try to leave Parris Island or unfortunately, and sometimes try to commit suicide. In this particular case, a young man, we call it fire watch, but there's generally someone always on duty at night.
Right.
And I was on duty that night at 3 a.m., and a young man attempted to commit suicide in the bathroom, or what we refer to as the head in the military. So when I go into the bathroom, I was in shock. Mm-hmm. And you have to then go wake up the drill instructor. And that is already a terrifying experience.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, no one wants to do that. 3 a.m., you have to bang on the hatch 3 times. Sir, Recruit Miller requests permission to speak to you, sir. And you better believe the answer is not going to be a friendly one. He rushed out of the barrack into my face, threw me on the floor. I'm doing push-ups, sit-ups, and what do you want? Finally, I tell him that this other recruit is attempting to commit suicide, continue to kill himself. And he says, wait here. So he went back in, and what he really did was grab some first aid tools, immediately goes into the bathroom. He says, you stay here. Well, being curious, Don, I didn't stay there. So I snuck behind and I looked, and what I saw and witnessed that day was the toughest, loudest, meanest, like one of those guys in the military, hurry up, move now, get here, say, listen, son, it's going to be okay. Mm. Nice, gentle, soft, compassionate voice. We're going to get you taken care of. The Marines is not for everyone. We get you sent back home, and it'll be all fine. I saw compassion. I saw caring gentlemen, which I had not seen before. Mm. I had automatically typecast him as someone who I thought he was, that he really wasn't. Mm. He was being what that role called for him to be. But when he needed to be someone else, he needed to be someone compassionate to save this kid's life, he became that person also. Mm-hmm. I understand why the Marines need him to be who he is. You're training people that are risking their lives to defend the country. So we got to have a set of discipline, toughness to train new recruits. But however, though, what I saw, though, was someone who had transformed into that, but had a genuine heart. Wow, I can do that. I can be who they need to be. by understanding the attributes that the Marine would require.
How did that affect you as a leader? That ability to be what you have to be in the moment, but transform yourself when it's necessary. How has that affected you in your journey as a leader?
As president of Aflac leading the U.S., there are certain expectations that I must be able to do in order to do my job.
Mhm.
There are certain requirements of this job that you are counting on, I must be able to fulfill. I need to know what those are. I need to build a skill set, and I need to be an expert at that. What are those skill sets? What are those behaviors required? And that's what I mean by flawless execution. I make sure I actually define those things out, and that's who I become. But sometimes I need to be someone else.
Mm.
When I'm working with a child at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, I'm going out and showing compassion with someone undergoing cancer treatment.
Mm.
That is a totally different person or skill set or showing a different discipline that we need to be at that time. So a lot of things we do at Aflac, we give back to the community. We help support those fighting childhood cancer. That calls for a different approach. So I'm never going to need to be there 100% of the time. But when it's time, there are certain requirements I must fulfill to be good at what I do.
Well, that's the drill instructor lesson. That's awesome. So you grew up playing baseball, football in Georgia.
Yes.
Is there someone who served as a guide for you, whether it was a coach or a family member in your early sporting journey that you still think about today? Some influencer that played a role in keeping you on track?
A couple of stories come to mind and a couple of people come to mind. I want to start with my dad, though.
Mm.
Imagine a kid in Little League Baseball in the All-Star game. Game is on the line. Done, I struck out.
Mm.
Took a call, third strike. My dad, I actually saw him when he left the bleachers and walked to his car. It hurt. It hurt. When I got in the car, you know what he said? Son, don't ever take a call, third strike. You can't hit the ball if you don't swing the bat. Swing the bat. You're not going to see me sitting on the sidelines. I'm not going to be on the bench. I'm going to swing the bat. I'm going to swing the bat.
Mm.
I'm willing to take some risk with that. They're calculated risk. So in corporate America, I take risk. They're calculated, but you got to swing the bat. I won't take a call third strike. You better believe that, buddy. I get passionate even talking about it today.
There you go. Dude, I'm loving that one.
Hey, that's one. And I'll tell you another one, though. Someone who really influenced me, he was also my cousin, but he was my coach. Coach Cecil Patterson, one of the greatest coaches, baseball history, right in Gray, Georgia. Great baseball player himself. But he had so many sayings that I could go over. Two things that he taught me well. People say, don't sweat the small stuff. I say, sweat the small stuff. In the Marines, we would say attention to detail. You look at everything thoroughly. I am counting on everything to be right, mission critical. Well, Coach Patterson taught me that at a young age. Fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. Playing third base, he would take a paddle ball, tape it to our hands as your glove. You know, like a ping pong paddle ball.
Right.
That's what we use for a glove because he was teaching the technique, soft hands. When the ball comes, your hand gives, using two hands to cover the ball and be ready to throw. We will practice that over and over and over and over. Fundamentals. Second thing is even hitting baseball. We used to practice off a tee. It's like a t-ball player.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are in high school. We would hit off a tee all the way up into the last 2 weeks before the game. We would go into practice every day complaining, sick of hitting off that tee. I'm tired of hitting off that tee. But it's like, no, if I get your swing right, watch how easy it'll be when you get in the game. So it taught me the importance of fundamentals. I make sure my teams look at the small things. Walk your own process.
Walk your own process.
How do you know it works? Have you filed a claim yourself?
Oh,
Why don't you go through the process yourself? So if you own that process, then you need to test it. Fundamentals, fundamentals, make sure it works. Well, how do you make sure it works? You practice it, you practice, you try it, and then you do it.
so you actually have some of those who work for you file a claim just to see what the process is like.
Yes.
Wow, I love that.
How do you know if it works if you haven't done it yourself? Take customer feedback, absolutely. Will you listen to customer feedback? But you need to do it yourself. Have you called the call center yourself? Call it. Did you have to wait long? Did they answer your question? Become a customer of your own process.
I bet that'll freak some people out if they get a phone call and they suddenly realize there's Virgil on the other line.
That does happen.
I love it. But you're breaking new ground for us. I've been told you were on the fencing team in college. You took a class in fencing and you enjoyed it. You found out you were pretty good at it and you actually joined the team. We've had all kinds of other sports. You are the first fencer we've ever had. So tell me about that story.
Yeah, to your point, Don, I love baseball, football, love basketball. I just couldn't make the team. Golf, I love golf. I would never be a low handicap golfer.
My handicap is my backswing. That's my problem.
You're about like me, Don. So therefore, when I went to college, I wanted to try something different. So I said, I'm going to take a fencing class. Never fenced before. Now, when I joined the military, I had a lot of interest in martial arts. I took the Japanese arts, the Shito-ryu and Shotokan.
Wow. Another first. Covering all kinds of ground for us here.
So when you're actually fencing with a full sword, one of the first moves they teach you is what we call the parry. And I compare it to martial arts because it's a block, a counter, attack.
Right.
If you just remember those three things, block, counter, and attack. When I was being taught this, I will never forget the professor who was also the coach of the fencing team. He said, Virgil, you're a natural at this. But why was I a natural?
Martial arts?
I think it was a combination of all. So what's important in fencing is speed, agility, accuracy when you're actually sticking someone with the foil. Now, think about this. Go back to baseball and football and basketball. It's hand-eye coordination.
Right, yeah.
It is reflex. I used to have very good reflex. I played third base in baseball. You need quick reflexes.
Right.
So when someone would lunge at me, I could immediately block. But I would block with power. When you're blocking with power, you're actually pulling the other foil down. And I had this one move done where I would come straight back over the top and joust quickly and extend, full extension. But all that came from footwork, from speed, from agility, hand-eye coordination, reflex. Those are things that came from the other sports. I will say, too, that in college, on the fencing team, I would have been one of the first Black people on the team. But there was another Black classmate who was the point guard for the basketball team. Williams' speed and quickness with that foil, he was also very good as a natural. And the rest of the fencing team, they had not played or did not mention play other sports. Therefore, I think all those things added to that.
There's a great business lesson in that too. The ability to bring a multitude of disciplines together that allow someone to become really valuable. You used all those things that you had learned to help make you better in this new endeavor.
Yes.
Do you use any of those things that you learned in sports as you think about your leadership of Aflac today?
Absolutely. I remember the last football game I played in high school. Coach Williams said, leave it all on the field. I tell anyone that reports to me today, let's leave it all on the field. Let's give it our all. Let's put it all into it. Last year, my mother passed away. She used to say all the time, live life with no regrets. Life is short, life is precious. This is just a moment. You blink, Don, and your career will be coming to an end. Leave it all on the field. I go out there and play every game like it's our last. I try to make sure that people do that today. When I enter the building, you're going to get my all. 100% every single day.
That's hard. That's hard to do. Isn't it hard to come in every day ready to give everything you have? There's some people who, boy, they get exhausted with that as a thought process. How do you maintain your energy?
Well, it's exhausting now because the world has changed, and a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. Now, here's what I mean by that, and you probably notice the difference. Pre-pandemic, people who wanted to talk to me work with my assistant to get on my calendar. My phone would stop ringing maybe at 8 o'clock at night. It's tougher now because no one does that anymore. No, I get text messages, I get LinkedIn messages, I get Facebook messages. No one has the patience to just go and work through to get on the calendar or send me an email. So we've opened up a lot of different channels now. It's nothing to get a text at 11 p.m., even from people I don't even know, never even met before. At my level and my responsibility, there's no close of the workday. Saturday and Sunday doesn't matter to anyone. I get a business call, I get a business email on Saturday and Sunday. All that's out the door now, does. That does make it tough.
Yeah.
To the best of my ability, I keep it open until I'm ready to shut it off. This past week, I would have continued to go all the way through. I'm going to keep checking. I'm going to take it on Saturday. I'll take it on Sunday. I'll keep checking. But then I'm going to decide, though, this next weekend, I'm going to shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to shut off and then you recharge. If you're not recharging, you will burn yourself out. There is absolutely a point you must recharge. What you also have to do on a daily basis, though, every morning, I'm going to try to feed myself. I try to read an article, biblical driven person. I'm going to read an excerpt from the Bible. I'm going to listen to a key message. I have to have something to continue to feed myself.
Man.
Everyone, you have to go back and remember why we're doing this. Remember why everything I do is for a greater passion, for a greater cause that keeps me driven.
Remember why we're doing what we're doing. Too often, especially as we climb the executive ladder, we lose a little touch with that because now we're focused on numbers and outcomes as opposed to the people who are really who we serve. How do you stay connected to those you serve?
The greatest thing that happened to me in my life is I now work for an organization that we have an aligned passion, 100%.
Mm.
You've heard the term all the time, be passionate for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a job that you don't like doing, you're not passionate about it, Don, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I am 100% passionate about what I do.
Why? What is it?
Well, I was able to speak to a team here at Aflac yesterday. We did our town hall meetings. It is a discussion. We get an opportunity to discuss key topics. And what we normally do is allow people to write in and give us questions about what you want to hear about. So I was able to go on stage yesterday and respond to those questions. And every meeting, Don, I always start with, it's a great day at Aflac.
Mm.
Someone asked me, why do I always say that? Because I believe it. In my role, I get a chance to see the millions of people that we help with our products.
Mm.
I get all of the chance to read the complimentary letters. Virgil, I had a situation where I was undergoing cancer treatment. Thanks to your first occurrence benefit, it saved my life.
Mm.
I would have been at financial ruin had we not got the check that we were able to get. I was able to put my child in daycare as I had to quit my job to undergo treatment. I hear all these stories. Our insurance, Don, pays for expenses normally not covered by a major medical.
I've heard the duck tell me that story.
You've heard the duck tell you?
Come on, man.
When you see what it means to someone, and by the way, the great news is that American Cancer Society just released a report demonstrating that cancer survival rates are now increasing. Mm-hmm. That's good for all Americans. We try to encourage people to go out and get checked out and get early treatment and get early diagnosis. So we offer a wellness benefit. If you go for that wellness benefit, we're going to pay you to go get a checkup. Mm. But if you happen to get diagnosed with cancer, the earlier you catch it, the better. Mm-hmm. Here's what happens normally, what we've seen. You must undergo treatment. Now, the good news is the chances of recovery are better. However, treatment can be ongoing. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be months, it could be years. With that, many times it's not just the person who got diagnosed, but you're impacting the entire family.
Absolutely.
Generally, another family member will have to quit work to come take care of you. There's hotel expense, there's food expense, there's daycare expense. I can go on and on. We're helping put money in the pockets of those individuals. I also see what Aflac does in the community. I was there with Coach Don Staley. We got a chance to go to Children's Hospital in Virginia, and a young patient there surviving cancer gave her some survival beads that she has now been wearing for over a year. She gave her a new set of beads, but I was there with her and saw the difference it made in her life. I get a chance to see that all the time about how we are able to change and impact lives of those with Aflac and those without. We've given over $176 million to support children undergoing cancer treatment and other blood disorders, along with sickle cell. I am proud of that. I'm passionate about that. And then also just the way we treat people, our employees. We've been named many times for one of the best companies to work for. That is why I get passionate.
It's a great day at Aflac.
No, it is a great day at Aflac.
Why do you say it? Because I believe it. How has your definition of success evolved over time, and how do you measure it?
Growing up, I always thought first about my individual accomplishments or individual accolades. That is absolutely secondary to anything today. Playing team sports, you learn that.
Mm-hmm.
I can hit 4 home runs, but if the team loses, it's a loss.
Right.
I can score 60 points in a basketball game, but if we lose as a team, it doesn't matter.
Right.
In the Marines, we call it esprit de corps,
Right.
the spirit of the corps. Everyone joined together. You've heard that Semper Fi, always faithful. There are things that bring us all together in the fight for freedom. I served in Desert Storm. I got a chance to serve during the war and during peace. So therefore, I know what it takes. That brotherhood is extremely important. All those things should say I already had it done. But then when you get in corporate America, you start thinking about your own financial goals and you start saying, well, as an individual, I have some individual goals. I want to drive my income to better my family. I want to make sure that I hit this certain goal. So sometimes you start to think of I again. And I was like that. You're right. I got promoted a lot of times, rarely early on in a job for more than a year. I led a team in an early management role. I was able to take this one team from last by way of performance to first in 8 months. I got promoted. Congratulations, pat me on the back, right? This officer told me, he said, Virgil, the problem is they're going to go back right back to where they were because you helped lead them there, you helped bring them there, but you didn't leave things that were sustainable.
Good lesson.
Right. You didn't leave things that were sustainable. The organization looks like it did before you got there, now without you. The guy that was able to rally them and motivate them and get them to do these things, because I worked 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first eye-opener. Now as a leader, my measure must be that I grow those people, that I leave a sustainable model behind, that I transform. And one of the things I always say now, Don, is that I leave it in better than when I found it.
Mm-hmm.
Did I leave it better than when I found it? That's the question I always ask. When I reflect back, I got a chance to attend Creighton College. It's the first time I attended a Jesuit school. Man, great learnings there. But one of the things they taught me was the art of self-reflection. And so at every quarter, every year, I go back and self-reflect. And the first question I ask myself, how was it when I got there? Is it better than when I found it? Did I improve my individual skill set, but in order to help the team? How is the team's performance now based on that? Just like here, I lead the U.S. for Aflac. Well, I can have some individual departments, divisions succeed. But if the overall Aflac fails, when we're not able to deliver shareholder value back, we fail as a company. And it's on me. I take accountability. It's on me.
That's strong, because we could look and say we achieved, but if it falls right back to where it was before when you leave, then it may be better than when you arrived at the moment you leave.
Yes.
But is it going to be better the month later?
Yes.
That's a much better question to ask.
You got to have the right structure. Go back to some of the coaches we work with currently. I got a chance to spend time with Coach Saban. He would tell you, and I'm sure if you were to interview him, about him leaving Alabama as a head coach, that he put in a structure, though, that's sustainable.
Right.
I got a chance to interview Coach K. I mean, one of the greatest interviews I've had. Coach K talked about when he was leading USA basketball, how he built a structure that you are the USA when you put on that jersey. Mm-hmm. And he built a culture that doesn't matter which player was there. When they came in, they were the USA. I've tried to do the same thing here, is work with the culture that our CEO, Dan Amos, and his family created. But when you come into this culture, whether I'm here or not, it will continue forward with or without me.
Coach K, one of my favorites. I play in his old man basketball camp at Duke every summer. And what are you laughing for?
Well, you described yourself as an old man. That's the only thing.
But yeah, the book that I wrote on building high-performing teams, great teams, actually opens with a massive lesson he taught me about USA basketball and teaching them, you're not playing basketball anymore. You're actually serving someone by doing this. And, he was looking for the ability to connect these players to others who wore USA on their jersey, which would be members of the military, but for a far different reason. Writing that book and then turning that into an opportunity to tell that story often is one of my favorite pieces of the lessons Coach K has taught me as well.
That was well said. We're going to have to make sure he gets a copy of this done.
Trust me, he will. He's awesome. He and I do a lot of work with the V Foundation today, which is awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
In sports, we talk a lot about team. In the corporate world, too often the word team is overused. People refer to, this is my team, my corporate team, but the truth is they're just a bunch of people with the same business card. They're not acting like a team.
Yes.
You've been on teams. You've built teams. If you were trying to guide someone listening today, taking a group of disparate individuals and actually getting them to go someplace together as a team, what would be a couple of lessons you'd teach us about how to take people and turn them into a team?
The best way for a team to work is to rally them around a common goal, a common cause, a common mantra. If you can do that, you're going to have a chance to succeed. Let's go back to sports. It's about winning. Everyone's rallying around to get to that championship game or to win a championship. In the Marines, the first thing you're taught when you're signing up is we are the ones who will defend freedom against foreign or domestic enemies. We're going to defend the weak. We're going to defend those who can't defend themselves. And I'm willing to lay down my life for that. That brings everybody for a larger rally cry. Same thing in corporate America. We give back to the community. The $176 million I mentioned was donated by Aflac employees and those that sell Aflac. Our agent force, our 1099 force, they're not even Aflac employees, all contributed to that $176 million.
Wow.
Because it's a greater cause. The best way to do that, Don, is then to roll that up to something people can understand. Now, this pin I'm wearing today, if you can see this ribbon with the duck on it, it stands for Care on Purpose. It's a part of getting everyone to understand why we give back and what we do to make a difference in the lives of people. Aflac was founded by three brothers, but the principal founder, John Amos, said that we were founded on the premise of a promise, and that's to be there when people need us most. It's the same thing we carry forward today. So when I talk about giving those donations, we're being there for people who need us. When I talk about the policies we've created, it's being there for people who need us. When you can get everyone to rally around that, that's how you're going to keep a team moving forward.
I had a chance to read the editorial you did in Fortune magazine about this entire concept to lead other people into understanding early checkups and regular checkups and doing things that you don't necessarily think of your insurer as doing. I love hearing about it. So one question I'd love to ask you, we've asked this of a number of guests. Many of us who love sports see or feel momentum during a game, during a contest. But it's true in business too. Sometimes things start to happen and your business gets on a roll. It's usually a moment that kind of begins to spark it, that propels momentum to happen. Have you ever had a moment in this fantastic climb you've had where an event or a choice or a decision that you've made, you felt has helped shift the momentum in your business?
Yes. Let me give you a few examples of what I've had to endure as a fan of sports also. My Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl.
28-3.
My Atlanta Falcons, that wasn't a momentum shift. I don't know what is.
Oh my gosh.
Done. I am still hurt by that today.
I'm sure there's counseling that's been involved.
There's been counseling. Counseling was needed. I told Coach Prime this. We had a great relationship with him. We were able to have some sponsorship provided with University of Colorado this year with his leadership there in the Buffaloes and the game against Colorado State.
Oh, man.
You can see momentum swings.
Yep.
Growing up, one of the things about the baseball team I played on, we were so good then. We had quite a few players going to play Major League Baseball, but we were so good. It was a known fact we're going to win the region and go to the state every year. So as a freshman, to make the team was one thing. We had right about 40 baseball players. You know, average you carry about 18 or we carried 40 baseball players. But Don, you had to earn a pair of pants. So we called you the blue jean team. You didn't get a pair of pants. You wore your own blue jeans to the game. You had to earn pants first.
You had a jersey, but no pants.
You had a jersey. First, you had to make the team. Then you had to earn a pair of pants. I earned a pair of pants by the time I was either a freshman or sophomore. I'll never forget this. We were leading a team 18-1, fifth inning. We kept asking, put us in the game, coach. Put the bench into the game. He cleared the bench out. We all went into the game. And you're talking about momentum. Next thing we know, it was 18-17.
Oh, and you can't put the starters back in baseball.
Can't put them back in. We finally got that third out, and we're coming to the bench, and thank God our parents were there and no physical harm came to anyone. But I remember him throwing his hat into the ground, and he said this famous statement, "And you ask me why." Just think about that. I gave you the chance and you didn't deliver.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you the chance, you did not deliver. It won't happen again. One person gets a hit. That's why people have rally caps.
Right.
The best player comes in and says, let's get it going. Yeah, there's absolutely momentum. Somebody gets a hit, next person gets a hit, it just continues on. Same thing can happen in corporate America. Winning is contagious. You're hitting all your metrics, everybody's on board, and then all of a sudden, you don't hit a key metric. It impacts customers, it impacts compensation, it impacts everything, and then you can see people start to get down. Then another one happens. You can just see it start to change everything. Someone has to step up, break that chain of events. We used to say in baseball, somebody make a play, or in football, somebody hit somebody, make a play. Stop that momentum. That's all you're saying. Somebody do something big to stop the momentum, and that absolutely happens today in corporate America.
I love it. I love it. So how can our guests best connect with you and Aflac?
You can learn a lot about Aflac just by going to aflac.com. We have all of our information out there. I'm out there. I'm out there on LinkedIn if you're looking for me personally. We have a lot of things that we do. We, of course, are passionate about the products that we provide. We're educators in the supplemental space because we know average American has less than $1,000 in savings and is not prepared for an expected or unexpected medical event. We hate to see somebody go into financial ruin. Therefore, take a look at the products we offer and see if we can help. The other thing I would tell you is we work with a lot of providers. We believe in diversity. Aflac is recognized as one of the most diverse organizations out there. Why is that though? You know why? What American can't get sick or hurt? Disease or accident doesn't know color, race.
Yep.
In many cases, doesn't know age.
Right.
You know, seeing a small child with cancer, it just touches my heart. You just don't know. So we're open to do business and work with anybody out there.
You know, Virgil, I can't thank you enough today for being a corporate competitor. And I promise you, I will never text you at 11 p.m.
Well, thank you so much, Don. I really have enjoyed this, but if you wanted to, you can. You know why, Don? You know why? Because it's a great day at Aflac.
It's a great day on the Corporate Competitor podcast. That was so much fun. What an inspiration. And I can see why that guy has been promoted 30 times because I'd give him promotion 31 today. Let me tell you 3 things I took from that conversation. The first was his talk about look up, look down, look around. When he takes a new role, as he said, he looks up and he asks the leader above him, let's make sure we're clear. What do I have to deliver for you to look at me as successful? How do we define it? But he leaves nothing to chance. It is very well defined. Look up, ask the questions, and then look down and talk to the people who are working for you, if you will, and make sure they are equally clear. What are the expectations? This idea of clarity, of intentionality, so directly put in the way that he described it, complete point of value. My second big takeaway was the amazing story about the drill sergeant when he was at Paris Island. This gruff, tough person who, in a moment when gruff and tough was not what was needed, showed Virgil a sign of compassion that there may be a set of conditions that are required of us in our leadership, but in moments we have to be ready to port ourselves over and actually do something different because that's what's needed. Let's both be those things and maybe even see people slightly differently as he started to after that. And then finally, this one I really loved was when he talked about walking your own process. You tell people that they should use your call center. You tell people that your claims are the best ever because that's what you've read. But have you ever filed a claim? Have you ever called the call center yourself? What have you done that would allow you to understand that the process you are suggesting others should appreciate about your organization, in fact, is everything you said it is? I just want to give a shout out to our loyal listener, Gerardo Monroy, who made this connection for us. He's a great listener of this podcast who saw and mentioned that Virgil would be an extraordinary guest. Gerardo, thank you so much. And if any of the rest of you are listening and can think of someone who would be a real valued member of this community, someone who would help us all grow, please send me a LinkedIn message. I would be grateful. Today, I'm a better corporate competitor as a result of this conversation. I hope you are as well. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. Feedback helps us spread the insights of our guests to a wider audience. It actually increases our ratings. Thank you so much for those who have done so in the past. And catch new episodes every Wednesday. Subscribe at corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to be the first to get a chance to listen. And as a thank you gift, I will send you a chapter from one of my best-selling books. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My handle is @DonYaeger, DonYaeger. And until next week, I appreciate you.